All right, we are Esplanade on air, living the dream in the district. I'm your podcast pro, Jamie Taylor, broadcasting from the Esplanade district, and I am here with my friend, Jonathan Wardlaw. How are you?
Good today.
Yeah, well, it's funny because you are the owner of the Little Rock Rangers, so let me appropriately introduce you.
Yes, thanks for having me on again.
I think this is the same shirt that I wore then 6 years ago.
Logo has changed.
The logo has changed, but I have the inaugural logo, and we're going to talk about the logo too eventually, because now I want to talk about it since you mentioned it. But when we first talked about the club, you had no idea where it was going to go and what it was going to turn into. So let's just start with like way back then, how it started for people who may not just be learning about it.
Yeah, so, it's been just a whirlwind since then, but...
Your family's like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, parts of it seem like it were yesterday, and then parts of it seem like it were a million years ago, but I guess the main reason I started the club was I've got a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old, and when the 16-year-old was 10-ish or so, that's when, soccer and sports and everything starts getting really serious. And when he started playing, I guess, the classic soccer, the coaching hadn't really changed much since I was playing, at that age 30 years ago at that time. So a bunch of us dads, trying to solve the world.
Well, and to be fair, you play soccer.
Yes.
And you played adult soccer.
Yes.
So you understand soccer too on a different level than most dads who are just out there with their kids at a game.
Maybe so. But so a few of us are out there.
As a soccer parent, I'm just saying. I sideline coach all the time, so that's why I know.
Well, I'm by all means not trying to claim I'm an expert on the sport or anything like that, but I felt like it could be better here. I felt like the coaching could be better here. The interest, just everything about it could be better. And, so a few of us dads were just, complaining during one of the practices and, what can we do? Yada, yada, yada. And so I just kind of mentioned, I don't even remember, it's been so long ago, how it formed during the conversation, but we, just a minor league team kind of came up, and there could be so many, not problems, but so many things that could be achieved by having a minor league team. You number one, you lose the 9, 10, 11-year-old kids in the sport because at that age it gets serious. The practices are more during the week. So you get the multi-sport kids that the parents can't do all of the running around, so they make them pick a sport basically at those ages. And it seems like soccer is always the one that, or not always, but a lot of times is the one that gets dropped. It's fun when the kids are little. The parents probably don't know anything about the sport, so it's more of a social thing for them. So it's fun for them. And to see the kids running around and doing their thing. But at the same time, it as someone who takes the sport a little bit more seriously, it's a little frustrating to see some of these better athletes drop soccer and go on to football or baseball or basketball. So I thought by creating a minor league team, play at War Memorial Stadium, maybe some of these kids would see that, hey,
there's a future.
Yeah, there's something more to it than, just running around chasing a ball around.
What's interesting that you say that, because my own kid, same, like I started him in soccer, and it was like, now it was my whole desire for him to stay in it. And I remember the day that he was just like, and recently he was like, I kind of want to play soccer again. You think I can play for the Rangers? I'm like, no. I'm like, because the thing is, it's a different level. Yeah. You watch some of those kids play, and it is a different level. So you have achieved that. Of course, that's 6 years down the road. Now, going back to that original conversation, soccer is longer. It is the most popular sport in the world. If people don't know that, it is because worldwide, it's the most popular sport. In the United States, not so much. There's a lot of American football. There's a lot of baseball, basketball. But soccer truly is, in my opinion, it's an athlete conditioning sport. It's something I had to learn to play as an adult, because I played, like you talked, as a kid. And then you go back as an adult, it's a complex sport. And you run end to end, and it's it's great athleticism. I mean, these guys who play soccer outside are hard to run against. Like, try to go to CrossFit and run against a soccer player. Not easy.
Yeah, they've got motors.
They do. And so that being said, you talk about just getting together and the entrepreneurship of it. Like, you already had a life and a family and a job. I mean, so talk to me a little bit about the decision to go, okay, well, now all the dads probably were like, okay, we're in, hands in.
Yeah.
You lead the way.
Yeah. And, that's been I guess the fun part of it for me is creating the brand, the quote unquote brand of it. And as we mentioned, changing the logos. We came up with that one, literally, my wife and I made that. All
right, wait, interrupt, back to question.
Okay.
Now we're going to start with how Babs and you came up with the logo, and we'll get back then, because now you've got to go down that rabbit hole real quick.
About the logo?
Yeah, how you guys came up with it.
Yeah, so I've got a degree in landscape architecture, so I have a little bit of the computer drafting background. So literally when we decided we were going to go forward with this, I was like, all right, well, we got to come up with a crest. And so
that was probably so fun.
So literally it was like, 6, 7 a.m. started with coffee one Saturday morning, and we finished at like lunchtime. And well, I still have all the old like concepts of which way I wanted to go. And, being in Arkansas, and our, state mammal is the white-tailed deer. And so I knew I wanted to do that, just because I knew I knew that right away our audience and our fan base wasn't going to be there, but I at least wanted to create something that just a casual
recognizable
man or woman walking by, hey, I don't know anything about soccer, but that's got a deer on it, and I deer hunt.
Yeah, something, and the trees, and yeah.
So I just wanted to tie it to the state, and the tree represents the pine tree, and so it. Anyway,
what about the name, though? Did you know the Rangers were going to be the Rangers before you drew the crest out?
Well, kind of. That's a crazy story too. So, Wardlaw, the last name of Wardlaw, it's comes from Scotland, and so you've got the Glasgow Rangers in Scotland, which is one of the big clubs, and then you've also got Celtic. That's out of Glasgow as well, and they like hate each other. I mean, literally, like people die, type hate each other. And so, it goes all the way back to religion. I mean, I think Celtic's Catholic, and then Rangers are Protestant. And so anyway, it's real dynamic and complex, the hatred there.
No, that sounds kind of fun. But, interesting anyway.
But anyway, I didn't know any of that really going into it. I mean, I knew they hated each other. I knew there was a rivalry, but I didn't know it was that deep.
Right. You're just thinking of soccer rivalry.
Right.
Like,
and
wow.
So, I wanted something obviously that rolled off Little Rock. And so, the Rangers just kind of rolled off. And, there's Rangers in the English Premier League and everything as well. Yeah. And so there's a dad in our club now. And he's Scottish, and he's a huge Celtic fan.
I was about to sing it.
Yeah.
For real.
And huge Celtic. And he's like, yeah, my kid plays for you, but, he's never wearing a Rangers shirt. I mean,
oh my gosh, that's so
funny. It's really funny. So anyway, that's basically where the name came from. And the funnier story is that once, we started kind of going live and everything, I get a Facebook message from a guy named Alan Wardlaw that says, greetings, yada, yada, yada. We've got to be related somehow. I'm a scout for the Glasgow Rangers.
Shut up.
So
are you guys friends now?
Yeah, well, I mean, on Facebook, yeah.
But yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I sent him a bunch of Little Rock Rangers gear, and he sent me some Scottish gear, and so
that is so cool.
And all that happened like within a week.
But you gotta love the serendipity of that. That has to lead you to like, I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a second thought when you started this club that like, okay, I'm gonna keep my job and do this, or did you end up like, did you know it was gonna take over your life?
Yeah, well, so my wife's an audiologist, and we have a...
Shout out to Babs. She's the most beautiful, cool lady.
So we've got a hearing service business, and it's pediatric, and so we kind of go... My job in it is the financial end, so I handle the billing and all of that. So I can do that I can do that at any time, and so... when I started this thing, I thought it was just going to be a summer thing because the season just runs through the summer months, and I didn't think it would be that big of a deal. I'd just be busy during the summer, but my kids be out of school and all of that. So anyway, it turns out that it's more of a year-round thing, and especially now that we have the youth program going, it's a full-time gig.
That was literally what I was about to go into too, is that you didn't start this club you wanted them to have a future, and your kids both play, and your older son is really good at soccer. I mean, I've seen him play growing up, and watching him out there. He plays with adults sometimes. It seems like I've seen him on the field, or maybe that was a couple of years ago. He was out playing on the sidelines. I'm not sure. And Ryan's kid comes out there a lot, so I might be confusing all the boys. But this Rangers Academy thing was not an idea at the beginning, right? So how did that come about? Or did it just people just started coming and be like, open this age group?
Well, so when I started the Rangers, while year one was going on that summer, my hair was on fire. Didn't know what I was doing, going in every direction.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm just looking back on it because you were running all over the city.
We had to fire our coach 3 or 4 games in the season.
Drama.
There's all kinds of stuff going on behind the scenes. And so a friend of mine, Charlie Roberts, mentioned that there's a former MLS player living in Little Rock. And I was like, really? And so he told me, and he had his contact info or knew how to get it somehow just because the soccer community is so small. And I just blindly reached out to him. His name's Ante Jazic. And hey, would you go get a beer with me?
I'm in over my head.
Kinda, yeah. And,
I've made this call before,
right?
Jonathan,
Yeah. And so I was just, we were having coaching issues. Players were unhappy, and all of that. And so I just, was like, look, we're broke, really. I mean, we didn't have any money. I had some money that we had made off the first few games, but you don't know. We hadn't even really gone on a big road trip yet at the time. And so anyway, I was like, there's no money, can't pay you, but I need your expertise, blah, blah, blah. And so he was like, yeah, I'll help out however I can. So he started coming by at the men's trainings, and he'd just observe and then just kind of give me feedback. You may mention this to the coach, you may blah, blah, blah. So anyway, we just kind of struck up a friendship and, started going and getting beers and things like that. And then
I'm assuming a lot of Lost 40.
And then we just kind of dreamed up maybe starting to do some camps that he could run under the Rangers brand. And so we did that, and then the reception of that was just huge. We started doing these off-season training camps, kinda. They're not really camps. I hate calling them camps because I see a camp as like a week-long thing.
Yeah, no, these are months, right?
What we were doing is 2-3 days a week, spread out for basically the whole off-season, and it just grew. And then of course, parents are like, why don't y'all start doing teams and making this a year-round thing for the youth? And so it's kind of just grown into that. And so that's kind of where we are now. So he and I have partnered up and created a whole other entity for the youth, but it's all under the big Rangers umbrella.
My brain started going crazy while you're talking because we've been friends for a while, and I kind of always chalk it up to like, oh, this guy I played soccer with and a bunch of friends decided to start a soccer club, and it's such a cool story and I can't wait to tell it. But my brain just then was like, I wasn't even thinking about the fact that you were trying to deal with structuring a team, figuring out coaching, practicing, fields, insurance, scouting, marketing, branding, building all of this stuff, and it's just you and your circle, just running around trying to figure it out.
I mean, there are several,
a team.
Yeah, there's several people that volunteer that help.
Yeah. I've taken tickets before. Yeah, I know it's a labor of love, but that's the only.
So I can't take all of that credit.
No, but I'm just saying that the startup, just thinking about the beginning of it and then how it unleashed, it was very rapid. It feels like it's been 6 years and look at this thing. Yeah,
that first game, I always talk to my wife and I, we always kind of joke. It was kind of like our wedding reception where, it's you're getting pulled in every direction and you're trying to absorb as much as you can. But then at the end of the night, you have like an amnesia. You're like, I don't remember who I saw, how many hands
I looked
shook?
great. Had a good time.
I don't know if I did. I don't. I mean, that was.
It did though. It was very, for the first time, going to that first game, being part of the soccer culture you mentioned. It's small. Little Rock's small. It's a big city, but it's a little town, and everybody knows each other. And you have this kind of really cool culture. Which, back to your wedding reception analogy, there's also people from all different areas. So everybody's different, and they all come together for the love of this game. And in the beginning, it felt like it was kind of a small little culture of people. I mean, we all play at Burns.
It's a community.
A community of just, I play soccer at Burns, or I play at United, or my kids play, whatever. But then it started feeling like, I live in Little Rock. I support my city's team.
Yeah, and that's what I hope to eventually, and that was one of the...
You're just trying to keep your kids here playing soccer, so you need there to be an MLS team.
Well, I mean, no, but I mean, there really is, there's always been that Razorback and Little Rock kind of feud, and I was hoping to try to tap into some of those begruntled or disgruntled Little Rock Razorback fans that they're going to pull all their games to Razorback Stadium in Fayetteville. There's nothing for me here. And I mean, that's one reason that War Memorial kind of fell in our laps, because they were kind of freaking out. Like, what are we going to do with this place? Just have birthday parties here? Because that's all they were. But
well, and that brings a good point, though, is, the economics of it. When you first look at the team, it's kind of like you guys are looking for a place to go, and you're kind of just now starting out. And now it's a whole machine. It's like you guys have fields all over the city. We're
trying.
You're starting out doing that. But what I'm saying is now people are coming to you. I mean, I know because I came to you, and people are coming to you asking, how do I do this? Where do I go? But what I think you're trying to accomplish essentially is you want Little Rock to have their own team that they can get behind on a level where they can take their whole family out. They can enjoy hours watching a sport. Their kids can come and be in the program and look up to a professional player at halftime and say, this is somebody that I want to look up to and be like when I grow up. They can even buy jerseys.
Yeah. No, it's been really cool seeing that evolution. Once we started the youth program and seeing these kids, the first few games after we started it, the kids would, the parents would take the kids there, and the kids would just run the stands and do whatever and, eat and all of that, not really get into the game. But this past season, it's been really weird. I don't know what caused it to cause the kids to kind of turn the corner, but they're all down in the supporter group section, like leaning against the wall, yelling at the refs. I mean, it's at the
your dream is coming true.
Well,
is the
it's
thing.
just really, I'm seeing all these young crazy people, wanting to hold the smoke flares and all of that, and I'm just like, I don't, do I need to get waivers signed at doors?
Probably. Well, I don't know. I think that it is growing a mind of its own, though. I mean, and that brings me to another point: the Red Watch. I mean, and this is funny. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Like, Ryan, be mad at me if you want to, but at first I was in love with the idea, and I still am. I think it's wild and crazy them coming out there. But then I'm also like, if I'm like on the other team, or if I'm a player, or if I'm a coach, like, they are not super professional. Like, it's for, you know what I mean? Like, if you mess with our team, they are on you the rest of the game. They will not be quiet. But that's a soccer thing, right?
That's just part of it. Yeah.
And they are good at it, though.
Yeah.
They're very good at it.
No, that's mainly their job is to heckle, and
Ryan is disruptive. The whole team is disruptive. The smoke is disruptive. The bass drums. It's just all really exciting. Did you ever think you were going to see that in the stands?
No. I mean, obviously you hope it, but you just don't. You don't know. And truly, the Red Watch really wasn't there the first season. Ryan really didn't start getting involved until the second season. He may have come to a few games, but I think he was newly moved to Little Rock and just kind of still getting his bearings and stuff. But after that first season, he and I kind of connected, and he was like, I want to do this. And Kyle Pounders, who has Excalibur, he's the one who connected us.
Okay.
And anyway, it's been a great friendship, he and I, and there's a really successful team, kind of like us. We're years behind them, but kind of like us in Chattanooga. And I've always kind of reached out to them and, hey, we're here in our, journey.
Yeah.
What should we expect? What, where should I go? And when we were kind of dealing with the supporter group thing and all of that, he was like the guy at Chattanooga, one of the owners. He's now like crazy. He's the mayor of Chattanooga now.
Oh my gosh,
I mean, he got elected
so cool.
mayor. But
Watch
anyway,
out.
yeah, no, not me. But anyway, he was like, whatever you do, the passion of the supporter group, you can't try to tame it or direct it or point it. It's got to be organic. Just let them do their thing. Yeah, you may need to censor something here or there, to keep it, kid and family friendly. But, he said for the most part, just let them go, let him be his own thing. And that's what we've done. And so Ryan's been great at, kind of keeping that family friendly part going, because there's plenty of supporter groups out there that are not.
Well, and what's fantastic about it is like not only family friendly, but like last time I was there was literally the I wish I knew her name, but the girl that plays the snare drum, that she there's like 5 or 6 kids around this game, and it was like the end, and we were losing, and all of us were heartbroken because we knew it was about to be. But these kids, so they were trying to play their drums, but these kids really wanted to play the drums, and so she was sitting down there like teaching them a beat, and, like they were all there together, and we were all sitting there like, it's fine, we'll just teach them how to play the drums for now. But it was like the passion of it. I'm so glad you said that, because it brings it to a point where like I don't know if it's, what's his name, the guy that sings the song in the stands. About
Oleg,
yes,
Russian guy.
Oh my gosh, the whole Oleg thing, the anthem, like the songs. You had no idea that this thing was going to come.
And he came up. He has a podcast in Russia, like that airs in Russia.
How do I not know this?
Yeah, and so I
need you to connect.
I was on his podcast, and so he was like, and he's like a professor or researcher or something at UAMS.
Yeah, okay, you're gonna have to
crazy.
connect us. That's
It's
incredible,
crazy.
because I didn't know that, and now I feel terrible. But that's one of those things. That passion, that's part of the game day experience, and I want to talk about the game day experience a little bit, because I want to know what your goal initial, like if you could create the ultimate game day experience, like what would that look like for you in Little Rock? Because I think that, and this is me being selfish and like experienced in real estate and understanding economics and being like, hi, this is a really great opportunity with a huge following. It's been 6 years. You guys have gotten into USL2 League, which we're going to talk a little bit about what that means as you describe what your game day experience looks like. But tell me about that, your ideal situation, because I know as a family, having an option of a team to support, going somewhere to a stadium, experiencing game day is incredibly fun. But from an owner's perspective, tell me what that would ideally look like in our city. Yeah,
well, I get asked a lot, when are we going to be, quote unquote pro, because we're not
MLS, right.
Our players are not, they're not paid. This league that we're in is a development league, and most of these players are college players, and they play for us through the summer, just to stay fit and to learn from different coaches and different parts of the country and things like that.
For the love of the game, too.
Right. Well, and they just have to stay fit over the summer. They can't go home. And
soccer is something you cannot not do and
right.
be back in shape. Yeah,
they're like
Disclaimer.
marathon runners.
Never thought about it like that. Sorry.
So anyway, I always get asked that, when are we going to make the leap to go pro? And there's so many things that have to happen. I mean, we've got to have a wider field. There's ownership requirements to make the jump to a pro league and things like that the boxes I can't check. And, it requires quite a bit of an investment financially to tie up franchises and things like that. But there's been people, and we're connected to people that could help us on that. But it's always been kind of pointless for me to do that, because I want it to be sustainable. Yeah, we may find someone that can fund us with $1 million or whatever to make that leap. But once we get there, we've got to be able to sustain it.
And perform at that level and do all those things.
Yeah, so we get 2,000-3,000 people a game, and we can't do that and be sustainable at that next level. We need to have 5,000-6,000 people per game. So that's always my struggle on next steps with this club. Do we find a different locality that we have more control over concessions, because that's revenue that we don't get with
right.
the stadium. One of the biggest complaints that we have from our existing fans are the football lines are terribly ugly.
They're difficult to watch the game.
It takes away from their experience of watching the game. The field at War Memorial is too narrow. That's the reason when we played in the U.S. Open Cup, we couldn't play there because it has to meet U.S. soccer standards, and it doesn't. So if we went to a professional league, we couldn't play there in its existing condition. So, that's what I go out and try to find a new location to play? Do I go out and try to build my fan base first? Do I go out and try to find the magic investor to push us pro? Because if we announce we're pro, does that bring 5,000 people to the game just by doing that? I know that you're bringing thousands of people to a stadium to watch a game that are under conditions that are, they're still dealing with that and they're still coming out. And what's funny is the first podcast, you will go back and listen to it now because you'll be like, wait, what? Because the numbers you were looking at or thinking of were not anywhere near where that is right now, because it was just an idea and just a dream. And this is my thing. Don't ask me, because my answer to it is if you build it, they will come. And I'm like, just find somebody who builds you a giant stadium who believes in it. But that's my idealism shining through over my economic knowledge. It's fun air spending other people's money. Oh, I air spend people's money all day long. Just so you know, if we work together, I'm air spending your money constantly because I have big dreams. And I think, and I truly feel like people's passion, when they accept it about themselves and they're just like, I'm passionate about this, I'm going to go for it, like you've done with the soccer club. That's how these things happen. Yeah. Your wife and your children are selling merchandise and taking tickets and playing club. Every time I see you in public, someone's got Rangers gear on. Lost 40's involved. Hill Station's involved. You have people coming to you from you have players who do videography. Mm-hmm. You have people coming to you from around the city saying, I've got these soccer fields. What should I do with them? Can you program them? It blows my mind how that has happened in 6 years. Mm-hmm. What else has grown that rapidly from this city with that much positivity and reach in the past 5-10 years? No.
Nothing, J-Dub. That's where we're at. That's your new name, by the way. Okay. But this is the thing. And that kind of brings me to like the next venture, as far as you talk about next steps. And right now you don't know where that looks like down the road. I feel like in a few years, boom, you'll have it. But when I came to you, I had a new kind of section of the city soccer fields that I wanted to see what your interest was. And I want to talk about that a little bit, because let's talk about underutilized fields, or the ability to program youth at fields, because that's not something, you didn't have fields to begin with, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think it's I don't know how to say this without just kind of being frank. It's more of like a underutilized communities, underutilized people.
Right.
There's land all over. And I've always said, I'm going to say it, probably shouldn't say it, but I've always said that this sport, soccer in this country, and people say it all the time, so I guess I can say it, but it's not set up like it is everywhere else in the world, as you mentioned, and being in every other country, basically, it's like the poor kid's sport. It's, all you need is a ball
and some dirt.
You don't even need dirt. You can play in the street. You can play anywhere, and you can play by yourself. It's like picking up a basketball and going and shooting hoops by yourself. You can play soccer by yourself. And here, the way it's just established itself in the U.S., it's kind of the rich white kid sport, or middle class white kid sport.
Right.
And we need to fix that. Right. And
it is kind of expensive to register. It's expensive, but it's also the time investment is the biggest thing too, because as a parent, there's practices, there's good, but they're longer games. Your kids are conditioned differently. They need to eat differently. That's my opinion just from having a soccer playing kid in the house. But all that being said, access is very important. And that's kind of where some of like where the fields are located. And that's been a thing for us. They're right in the middle of a community that needs that kind of access.
And that's kind of another struggle, another whole other hat that I wear is, yes, the youth academy, we have to be profitable. These coaches want to get paid. We have to mow the
buy material, mow fields, maintain them.
Right. I mean, soccer goals are expensive. I mean,
They are.
we can't just be that philanthropic to where we're just everybody plays for free.
Well, that's the same reason I can't get you a stadium, Jonathan. I was like, same thing.
So you know, it's one of those things. Someone's got to pay for it somehow. So, you know, yeah, our current youth program is a pay to play, which is kind of, you know, it's got a stigma to it here in the country, and it's something that we are really hoping we can figure out a way to at least make it a really reduced pay to play type model,
right?
With it coupled with sponsorships, and you know, who knows what the big Rangers can become, and somehow maybe it can
funnel down to the youth.
Yeah, somehow help pay the coaches' salaries and things like that. So we're still in our infancy as far as that goes, but we definitely want. I mean, I want our youth academy as colorful, with ethnicities, access, cultures, everything, as much as possible. So we're trying to get out into the public school system and after school programs, just getting any of these kids that, you know, can't play the normal club, travel, weekend soccer that we, you know, normally play, at least given some sort of after school program for these kids to, you know, just get them in the sport.
Well, and it's the thing about team sports and youth is there's so much character development that happens when you are not only practicing to be individually strong, you're challenging yourself, you're getting better. Like you said, you can kick a ball in your yard. It doesn't cost you anything to work at something. Mm-hmm. But then also getting along with people that live in your neighborhood, that are kids that go to your school, and building that character development that you get through sports. Soccer is a great sport to do that because of how many kids it takes to play a game, and how much you have to interact on the field, and how much communication it takes, and how much you know what it feels like to run in Arkansas heat. You've got to have credit and respect for each other. But you say that, and the accountability in the community that happens when you are a part of, it's kind of like us. We've been teammates. I quit playing, obviously, with that last baby just took me out. But like some people have knee injuries. I have children. I'm done. But I say all that to say that there are, like, I'm very excited about the current development that we're working on together, because I know that there is a community of soccer kids and soccer youth that wants to play and that has a place to do that. And I think what you just mentioned about sponsorship, it's a good thing you're here, because I think we should, you know, shout out to our listeners. There's a lot of you who are involved in large organizations that have a lot of say in what you're doing. And this is important to our city. Soccer culture is it's fun. If you haven't been to a Rangers game, you're missing out. But if you are a sponsor, you're in a sponsorship position, be thinking about that, because what you're doing is, like you said, for the kids, you are growing a soccer club so they had something to look forward to. We look forward to Rangers games. Our kids want to grow up and, you know, that's like you said, is kind of, that is what these kids are getting when they get delivered. They're looking forward to their future. And if that is something that they could eventually stay in our city for and continue to create jobs and recreational activity, I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah. Well, and
start throwing your dollars.
Well,
I'll just say it.
Another cool thing that the senior team has brought is, I use a guy who played our first 3 seasons. I use him as an example all the time. His name's Gabby Viola, and he's from Brazil. And he played for, he's from Rio, humongous city, and played for a small community college just to kind of get in the States. A lot of those guys have to. The foreign internationals go to a community college first, play for a year or two so they can get their, it's got something to do with school. But in order to gain their NCAA eligibility, they have to meet certain requirements here in the country first. So a lot of them go to a junior college first and do that, and then they go on to a D1 school or something like that. So he ended up going to, it was Iowa Western was the community college, but then he went to Seton Hall to finish up. And so he's right outside New York City. And I mean, he's a great player, fan favorite and everything. And, you know, 3 summers he chose to not go home to Rio, not stay up there in New York City and all around. He chose to come to Little Rock, Arkansas for 3 summers in a row and play for us. And that just speaks so many volumes for our city. And I mean, I still keep in touch with him, and he misses us, misses Little Rock, all of that. You know, it's pretty cool to showcase, you know, us, you know, Arkansas flyover state, it's pretty cool to be able to showcase that to these players.
Yeah, and I love that because people, and I've talked about it on my other show all the time, but like we're number one in agriculture, but we're number two in tourism, and that's as far as our income. Income is related to tourism. All these people come here. We're a beautiful state with so much to offer, but I mean that does speak volumes for him. For your program as well, because he's a high level player that can go anywhere in the world and kind of play,
in the country
kick it around, and he chose to kick it in the Rock. So I just think that is something that's an incredible story. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So what has been the most challenging? And I'll just ask you a couple more things. I'll let you go because I know you've got other things to do and fields to mow. But what do you think has been the most challenging learning curve for you as an owner? Because I don't know exactly, like you mentioned what your background was in, gives me a lot of idea about structure. And I know you're probably very good at things on the computer, but math. But I'm curious, what was the biggest learning curve? Was it building a brand? Was it connecting people in the community? Like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do that part anymore. Maybe that challenge.
Gosh. I guess I've always been, a planner, just through my schooling and everything. Need to be crazy organized and structured, and I still am to a certain extent, but all of this is such uncharted territory that, I don't know what next week brings. I don't know what next year brings. And so that's been quite a bit of a struggle.
That's a big difference,
yeah. I have no idea what our budget will be next year, and
I'm trying not to laugh, but that's how Joey feels like being married to me.
Yeah, I mean,
no idea what's next.
I don't know if we should be buying this bus. I mean, we can afford it right now, but next year I don't. So the unexpected has really been kind of a struggle. This kind of stuff, honestly. This has never been, I've always been just a worker, put my head down, someone else can take credit. I don't want to be the face of anything. I don't care if my name's there. I don't want to be in the newspaper. I've never needed that. And so this has all been kind of a struggle because I'm really kind of an introverted, just let me work.
Structured and humble, and now you're being
and that's why,
pushed out of your comfort zone in every area.
And like at our games, it's hard for me to get out and mingle through the stands. I feel like I got people looking at me, and I don't. Yeah. So I just stay busy behind the scenes. And
it's a good thing there's constantly a fire to put out because you can't really.
Right.
I've watched you at games.
Right.
You're like me at events. I can't. I've got too many things to do.
And,
I can't.
Yeah, and so my wife is much more personable and bubbly, and can chat much better than I can. And so that's, she's at the merch booth.
Yeah, she does a great job. My son came back one day. I made the mistake of I was taking tickets and I was distracted having the time of my life, because that's the thing about Little Rock. When I say it's a small town, big city, people are coming in and it's like, I played soccer with you, I've sold real estate with you, I've hung out with you, and all these different people from different places coming together to rally behind the Rangers. And so I'm sitting there taking tickets, and I just hand my debit card to my son, and he's like, can I get some merchandise? I'm like, sure. He comes back with a jersey, a hat, a scarf, a sweater for the baby. He comes back.
She's like, that lady said I needed it.
He said, Babs said that this would be perfect for the baby, and I'm like, but it was just so funny because I was thinking, man, I would have bought it from her too. It's fine. I just love that, and it's been cool too with your merchandise. Have you guys had a chance to design a lot of that yourselves? And
yeah, well, that was another cool thing. Speaking of community, a good friend of mine another friendship, didn't know the guy from Adam. And this guy, literally the first day that, it went public and we got announced by at the time, National Premier Soccer League, when we got announced over Facebook and social media and all that, it was October 18th, 2015.
There's that structured brain.
Yeah. When that went live, so to speak, he reaches out, I want to say that day, and was just like, hey, I'm a graphic designer here in town. Used to play soccer, played for UCA. Would love to help out however I can. And so I was like, yeah. And so,
please.
Can you meet now?
Yeah. Can we meet last weekend?
Right. So anyway, so yeah, he's still involved. He's now got 2 boys. Both of them are going to be playing in our club next year. So he's got another baby on the way. craziness.
He's just playing. He's keeping your player base.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So and he's going to help coach. So it's been cool building that. And but he's still, he's been so good because I get visions of what I want, and I think this T-shirt would do well and things like that. And I just kind of have to point him in the right direction. I want a forward-facing deer head that looks mascot-y type thing, like all the other pro teams are doing, a secondary logo. He's like, I got it, and boom.
The deer mascot, by the way, is wonderful.
The big guy walking around?
The baby hates him. The teenager, but he just hasn't come around yet. He's a new, he hasn't done the Baby Bucks program yet.
That's Caleb, and he's
thanks, Caleb.
he's shout out to Caleb. But he's been doing it. Gosh, how long? I want to say he was like in 8th or 9th grade when he first started doing it. Now he's a senior in high school, or he may have already graduated. I don't know.
That's incredible, though, the dedication.
Well, I mean, and just we pay him a little bit, gas money type thing, but
nobody, doesn't matter what you pay somebody, putting on that costume in this heat, especially this summer, he loves that team.
I'm sure we're drastically underpaying him.
Well, I just think I have a portable air conditioner we're going to stick in there for him next year. But so that's the hard part. I want one last question is, okay. All the hard parts, there's also been a big, huge benefit to it, right? I mean, now your life is totally different. You didn't even know what was going to happen. So what do you think? And I know there's a million of them, so you'll just have to pick one. I'm not going to say your favorite, but one of your favorite byproducts of the Little Rock Rangers. I mean, you've got Hill Station, you've got a million different things that have happened. But I would say just, I'll tell you, for me, it's going to the games and seeing not just your family like working together doing this, but seeing different parts of our community coming together, taking part in the effort to grow it. Yeah,
I would say that's probably definitely kind
of like a fairy tale.
Well, I mean, you just like with any, startup, you're hoping for the best and kind of prepared for the worst, and so you try to keep yourself in check and to actually, be going into our COVID has me all messed up. So we're going into our 7th year.
Your post on Facebook said cheers to number 6, so I know you're past 6.
Yeah, so going into our 7th year and 6th soccer season because we had to skip one for COVID. Right. So, it's,
wasn't a summer.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, knock on wood, not been a flash in the pan, just, checkered minor league sports franchise. We're building something. Well,
and you are building, but you have built
I still think there's so much room to grow, and I think we'll continue to.
I think so too.
There's so many people getting involved and want to be a part that never had anything to do with the sport, and that's one of the main goals of this was to introduce the sport to the region, and we're doing it.
You are, and I'm really proud of you, and I'm proud to call you a friend, and I'm excited to be involved with you. And I know last night when I was at the fields and Alex came out there, it was one of those situations where, and I'm, still learning Spanish, so I'm not totally fluent, and he is. And he was out there, we're talking about a tournament coming up at those fields, and there was all this conversation happening, and I just kept hearing him talk about, we're going to bring people from here and people from here, and we got done talking, and he was like, where do I know you from anyways? And I'm like, do you play soccer at Burns? Do you know Jonathan? He's like, yeah, I know Jonathan. I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, well, do you know Joey? I pick up my phone and show him. He's like, oh my gosh, he's been playing soccer with my husband for 15 years. Like, all of these connections around the city. You have no idea how many people are connected just through this game.
Yeah.
Isn't it called the beautiful game anyways?
Yeah.
There you go. All right, then. Well, it's been great having you back on the show.
Thanks. I'll see you in another 6 years, I guess.
Yeah, no, not 6 years. We're going to have to start a show. I've convinced Ryan, so we're going to let it grow without, you can't have any direction, though, because like the Chattanooga guy said, that's our business.
Yep. Sounds good.
All right, well, it's last call. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, so we're going to close up the lobby and call it quits tonight. Thank you, Jonathan Wardlaw, for being part of the show. And hey, Little Rock, go out, support your Little Rock Rangers, buy all the merch online, come to all the games.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thanks, Little Rock. We're out.